Hello everyone and welcome to another one of those Thoughts After 1 Year vlogs. This time I'm not going to talk about the Serge Modular Synth, but about the Tangible Waves AE Modular System. Last year at Superbooth 2018 I took the chance to get it into my hands, to play with it and to talk to Robert from Tangible Waves, quite a lot actually, and after that I was convinced to buy a system, 2 rows but packed full with modules. I received it exactly 1 year ago, so yeah, now let's see how that developed. Well, nothing broke. It all still works just like I've received it, and I've reshuffled the modules inside those cases. I've done DIY, stabbed weird power supplies in there, using those USB power bricks and step-up adapters and, 9-volt ports there, all sketchy energy. Other than that, no pots are scratchy or broke. I didn't break any tips of those cables, which some people fear. So yeah, nothing snapped off here and got stuck in a module. No cable snapped in half. In fact, and I actually played live with it even, and took it on the road. I took, one of those cases, the first one when I got it, without this metal case around it, and I just stuck it in my backpack with everything out in the open. I've used the 4IO module and the master module to plug 3.5mm jacks in there, no problem at all. And I even stuck scotch tape to the front panels and over the print and everything to keep the cables down for a live show. I left it like that for 2 weeks, peeled it off, and yeah, the print was still totally fine. Of course there's a little bit of dirt there now, which is a little sticky, but yeah, the print is still there, no problem. I didn't bend or break front panels, because yeah, as you know, they're not made of metal, they're made of wood. So I don't really think we need to worry about the build quality too much of the system. Of course, if you wanted to break it, you could break it more easily than a Eurorack system made of metal, of course, but then again, usually you do not want to break your music gear, unless of course you're at Thoman's synth reactor. You just want to play with it regularly, in the closet, on the couch, on the bus, you want to take it somewhere, and that's all perfectly possible with the AE Modular. Alright, next up. It was actually a lot of fun. It's really grown, and very quickly grown actually, to be a full-fledged modular system. There are lots of modules out there already. Just this year at Superbooth now, a few weeks ago, new modules have been arrived. There will be the Mutable Instrument Classic modules in this AE Modular format as well coming out at some point. The first one's going to be the grids, which will be out very, very soon. There are a bunch of people who make DIY modules already, including me actually. I've made this touch plate thing. I've made a CV to MIDI CC interface based on Arduino. Super simple. Check the AE Modular Forums for the build instruction and the source code. And I'm currently developing this fun sequencer, also based on an Arduino, and I'm actually in talks with Robert how we will release the sequencer as a proper commercial module. And like I already said, check the AE Modular Forums, because there are a bunch of DIY nerds. There are a lot of people actually also posting music, so you can check out how the system sounds in other people's hands. There's a bunch of new content on YouTube, interviews with Robert, especially from this year's Superbooth. And so not only using this thing was great, also interacting with all the users is really fun, because they come from a lot of different angles. It's not just newcomers who want to buy a cheap synth, it's also old-timers with lots of experience, and yeah, on the AE Modular Forums we get a very good mix of interaction, I think. Next. We're getting more and more digital modules, and that's a good thing in my opinion. The system started out as an all-analog modular synthesizer. You've got your analog VCOs, analog filters, analog step sequencers, all great, but I think nowadays the power really is also in digital stuff and interfacing digital and analog. And so we've seen the digital multi-effects module, which is a really powerful effect processor, which is also CV controllable, and now at Superbooth, apart from the Mutable Instruments grids module, there will also be the Solina String Synth, a digital synthesizer that sounds amazing for pads. We're also seeing digital control in analog modules now, like the new oscillator, which has a digital pitch control, which provides very good tracking while keeping the sound analog. And there will be a bunch of other digital stuff coming out, and again, if you know your way around an Arduino or a Teensy or microprocessors like that, the AE Modular is the perfect DIY laboratory. And I've said this in my format introduction video, and it's been talked a lot about already. Everything inside the system is 0 to 5 volts. No negative voltages, no high voltages whatsoever, so you can really just plug an Arduino into the power bus and run it from there. You can plug control voltages audio directly into the Arduino. I mean, you still want to protect it maybe, but this module and this module right now, they're totally running directly from the bus without any protection, and they've done that for a long time already. And that's fun. And you can also just plug in your integrated circuits in there, you know, your counters and your square wave LFOs and all that stuff. I've built this module right here, which has a logic, which has voltage controlled switches, a counter, like I said, OR gates, LFOs and all that things. And it's really just some ICs I found in my DIY drawer, stuck onto a PCB, soldered together, and that's it. And it just works. So yeah, if you want to DIY, this is a great place to start. Up next, it does play well with others. Even though me personally, I usually keep my synthesizer systems more self-contained and don't really patch between them a lot. But there are other people out there who totally do that and who sequence the AE Modular with MIDI or with Eurorack, or use the sequencer in there to sequence other synths. And so you can totally integrate it in the studio setup. And I think, for example, Space Dog, a user on the AE Modular Forums, he has incorporated this into his ambient pieces, and they are amazing. And he uses lots of different kinds of synths. There are also other people who do the same thing. The Techno Bear, for example, uses this in a Eurorack, because there are also adapter frames to fit those small modules into Eurorack rows and power them from the Eurorack bus. So that is possible as well. He also uses it with the Bela Salt, for example, also a DIY microprocessor for music applications. So yeah, lots of possibility there to integrate it into your setup, whatever that might be. Next, the system is actually evolving. There are not just new modules coming out all the time, actually. No, but Robert is actually updating the system regularly. So we have new patch sockets by now, which offer a way better contact area than the original patch sockets. There will be new patch cables with gold-plated pins and silicone rubber, very flexible, with a very good grip in those sockets. At Superbooth we got like some samples, and they are really wiggly. Also, if you buy an AE Modular system now, the cases are also a little bit different. Back then here I had to use those link modules to chain two cases together to spread the power and the bus signals from one case to another. This is not necessary anymore, because the cases have those link ports built in now, so you can just daisy chain the cases directly without sacrificing one module in each case, especially for that. So the quality and the whole experience is also getting better and better. Next, there's actually really good support that comes with that system. I mean, Robert is super busy, of course, but he does still respond to emails, and there are a bunch of people who regularly talk to him, me included. And that is really nice, not just as a customer who paid money for the system, but also for the whole community, because everybody really has almost like a story with Robert, because they all reached out to him at some point with an email or at Superbooth and talked to him, and yeah, he's a very warm and welcoming guy. Whew. Okay, so I'm thinking, I've just been talking about this now really excitedly, and I'm not really sure about any negative aspects for me personally. I guess if you have a bad eyesight or not stable hands, then it might indeed be quite tricky to patch this system. But personally, like I said on multiple occasions already, I never had this issue. But then again, this was my first synth, the Tiny-sizer, which uses the same cables basically, and it's all just tiny there. So I'm kind of used to that, and I'm totally fine with that. But I totally understand when people say no, that's not for them at all. They prefer 3.5mm banana jacks, or even 6.3mm for the 5U systems, because that indeed is a different patching experience completely, and I totally understand that if you prefer that. Another thing that hasn't really happened yet is other manufacturers jumping on board of this system. Aero Instruments from the Netherlands, they have released some spring modules, you know, for electroacoustic stuff. But other than that, I don't think there's any company yet that manufactures AE Modular modules. However, I've heard some chatter at Superbooth this year that this might actually change in the near future. So yeah, let's all stay tuned and see how that develops, right? Okay, another positive thing, the price. It's just so good, and if you want to expand your system, it's really not much money at all when you compare it to something else like Eurorack. A case, I think, costs around 40 euros. The power module that can run 4 rows easily costs 50 euros, I think, and that also includes a MIDI to CV converter and those 3.5mm adapters. And I think the average module price is still below 40 euros. Yes, analog oscillator, less than 40 euros. Envelope generator, less than 40 euros. VCA less than 40 euros. Filter, I think also less than 40 euros, and there are 3 filters now, plus a low pass gate. So yeah, if you want to expand, you can usually just, do it. Also slowly or quickly, depending on how much funds you have, but it's not such a big brain teaser. What do I buy where? Which case do I need? Which power supply do I need? Like it is with other systems. And still, even a bigger system does not take up a lot of space or weigh a lot, so it's still very portable. And this very cheap and flimsy aluminium case I found on eBay houses those 2 systems very nicely and keeps them protected, and I can very easily carry that. It's less than 5 kilos with the power supply and with the patch cables in there, and I can just take it on the subway and travel somewhere and play with it, again also using power banks. And there's even a guy running it on solar power even, I've read on the forums, so that is apparently possible as well. Oh, okay. You have to wait for your system at the moment, because apparently there are lots of orders, especially now after Super Booth, which means there are delays in shipping times. But yeah, I mean, so far I think everybody has received their system eventually, and it didn't take, months or years, but rather weeks from what I've heard. Might take a little longer also depending on where you live. Oh, actually, that's another piece of news. You can already order it from the UK, from Juno Synth, I think, and there will also be US distributors shortly, I guess. At least I've heard that at Super Booth. So that makes ordering system and modules a lot easier for people all around the globe. Okay, I'm gonna end this vlog here. I think that's enough information for now. Let's see how it holds up after 2 years, next year. And I invite you to post your comments underneath this video or in the AE Modular forums and talk about the positive and also negative aspects after owning an AE Modular for a while. So thanks a lot for watching, and see you soon. Actually, to see each other again, it would be very handy to hit that subscribe button, because then you will be notified, especially if you click that little bell icon, if I post more videos. And well, what do I say? If? No, when I post new videos. So yeah, go check out the comments, hit subscribe, and see you very soon. Thanks a lot.